Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and today I want to talk about the visual style of Star Trek Discovery, especially in Season 1. I do think they improved the show visually in Season 2, and removed some of the stuff that I personally found really annoying in Season 1, such as the fact that everything was way too dark and everything was blue, with way too many lens flares and blurry lights, and Dutch angles, and the camera was too shaky and moving around all the time, spinning around the characters, which literally made me nauseous in a few scenes, and they toned all of that way down in season 2, so that was an improvement. But another problem was the sets themselves were kind of too gray, and all the uniforms were the same, everything was the same color, all the uniforms were exactly the same, it's all monotone, and so it just was kind of boring visually and kind of depressing. And they improved that also in season 2 because they brought all the characters from the Enterprise were wearing the more colorful uniforms, and even when they showed the bridge of the Enterprise, it had some more color compared to the one of Discovery. And I even watched in the behind the scenes of the show that they talked that it was all deliberate, that they basically wanted to make Starfleet look much more militaristic, like a military, like a space navy, and I say that was such a mistake because that's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a fleet of exploration, exploring far corners of the universe, and if you're sending people on long missions out into space, you would want them to feel more comfortable, so why not design the ships to be beautiful inside, to be pleasant to live in, especially if you live with families and all of that. So that was the vision of the older Star Trek shows, especially in TNG, that it's supposed to be a place you want to be in, you want to live on a starship, and it's better for the audience that way, it's better escapism, and it shows the vision of a bright future in which everything is brighter and more colorful. And instead we get this depressing, boring, gray, monotone, militaristic place that we wouldn't want to live in. We wouldn't want to spend a lot of time there. And part of it was made to be artistic, like all those gimmicks they did with the camera and the lens flares and the lights and the smoke. Some of it might have been good in a practical level, but it sets the tone to be so depressing and artsy and all of that, and so I really disliked the visual style of season 1. And it even reminds me of something from my own life, my own experience, because I actually was in the military for 3 years. It's mandatory service in my country, so I was in the army and I was in military police, and I had to deal with a variety of soldiers from different places in the army. And every section of the army, every different department has its own colors, especially the berets had its own colors depending on where you are from the army. And for most of my service, I basically commanded prisoners of the army itself, meaning, soldiers who got disciplinary punishment for short times, and so basically, going to the brig, and so I dealt with a lot of problematic soldiers, which, by the way, was probably the worst possible job for me because I used to be a very shy and gentle person, and suddenly I had to be tough and rough and be like a drill sergeant to other soldiers and also to problematic soldiers, not the usual kind who are easier to handle, but all the ones who got disciplinary punishment and are slightly more problematic to deal with. And so I had to totally change my skin and totally be the opposite of my own nature and to be basically like a drill sergeant to these problematic soldiers. And so anyway, this is a long story, but my point is that one of the things I actually liked in that job, which most of it I didn't like, but the only thing I liked is that I got to see a variety of people from different places and from different departments, and when they got to me, I was a commander of a small kind of holding center, and I would put them all standing in a line, and every one of them was from a different department. And one of the things I allowed them to keep was their berets. And so when they were all standing in line, I could see all the colors of the rainbow. And I remember I found that uplifting. It was like a small bit of color in an otherwise kind of a dark and depressing place. But then one day there was a new commander of the military police who changed all the regulations, and he told us to take away their berets until they are released and to give all of them the same hats and the same exact uniforms. And so I remember how much more depressing it made all of that, because suddenly it was all one color, one monotone color. They were all exactly the same, no variety, no color, nothing colorful. And so I remember how much I hated that. And you could argue those are prisoners who should be punished, so they shouldn't have any joy and all of that. They should be depressed. But that made me depressed as well, and so what am I guilty for? I'm not. Why should I feel like I'm in prison? And one of the things that annoyed me most because of that was that they did the same kind of things to us as well, meaning we had our own quarters, our own living area, and everyone had his own closet, and all those closets were painted different colors, and so there was kind of a variety of different colors in our quarters. And then the same new commander also instructed to paint all the closets the same color and to the color gray. Everything had to be gray. And luckily, all of this was right before I got released, and so I didn't have to suffer all of that for long. So I just remained silent and didn't say anything to anyone and didn't complain about that. But I remember how depressing that was. I thought to myself, I'm already kind of living in a prison myself, even though I didn't do anything wrong. I'm simply working there, but I feel like I'm in prison myself. Everything is depressing, but at least we had some bit of color, some colorful things, a little bit, and now you're taking away that as well. Now you're painting everything the same color, and there's no color at all, and all I see is just a gray color everywhere I look. And so how depressing is that? Why are you doing that to me? Why? There's no logic to it. So you want us to be depressed, you want us to feel as if we're in prison or what? So I remember that was just before I got released, luckily, and so I didn't have to suffer for long. And I know it sounds maybe like something silly, but when you're in such a dark place, even just a little bit of color or some colorful variety is enough. It's like a small sunlight, small shine that makes you slightly less depressed, and then they take away even that for absolutely no reason. And so I remember how angry I was at all of that. And so watching Star Trek Discovery kind of reminds me of that. I look at all of these monotone dark colors, all this gray and blue, without any touch of anything colorful, and it really pisses me off. And I think to myself, why are they doing that? Do they not realize that these are people they are sending on long missions out into space? Don't they want them to be more happy? Do they want them to get depressed? So why is everything the same color? So that's why it kind of pisses me off. So I just wanted to add this personal story to explain why I was so angry at the visual style. And even if not for that, I think it would be annoying because it's simply less entertaining to watch something with less colors. This is why I don't really like black and white movies. Unless it's done for some specific artistic reason, I generally don't like it. I much prefer to see color. And so once it became possible to make movies with color, that would be stupid to keep making black and white movies and giving up on something that might add something to the movie. And so that's why I don't get it why this show chose to show everything as being so monotone, so blue and gray and depressing, when it could simply add some color, and that alone would add so much. And that's something they did improve in season 2, so I do acknowledge that, but I still find season 1 just visually obnoxious to look at, partly because of the whole thing with the colors and so few colors and such a depressing tone. And so I just don't get why they did it. And in the behind the scenes they admitted that they wanted it all to look much more militaristic, and so this is really the wrong approach. So I just wanted to tell this story to explain exactly my thoughts on it. So let me know what you think and we can discuss it in the comment section below, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.